Hi there, Andre here from Peak Motorcycles. It is the middle of winter. I'm in my garage and it's absolutely freezing. I don't know if you can just about see my breath. In this video I'm going to be fitting this Arrow Thunder titanium exhaust system to my Honda CRF300 Rally. If you've seen my other videos you'll know that I already have the MotoX exhaust fitted to my bike. So the one I have is the titanium end can with the stainless steel link pipe and header. This one is a full titanium system. It also has a catalytic converter. So I think it's the only road legal exhaust that's available for the Honda CRF300L and 300 Rally. So I'm going to do a few things in this video. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh the exhaust and all the pieces that come with it. If you've seen my other video, you'll know I did the same thing when I replaced the stock with the MotoX. The stock exhaust system is about 6.1 kilos in total. The MotoX system is about 3.5 kilos in total. This one, I'm not sure. It has a titanium end can, but it is bigger than the MotoX one. The catalytic converter is also some extra weight, but I do have a titanium header and a titanium link pipe, which should make it slightly lighter. What I'm aiming to get to is the lightest possible road legal quiet exhaust for this bike. I know that there's lots of other exhausts out there. I know that the Yoshi's out there, but it's very loud, it's not road legal, it's not going to be ideal for the trails here in the UK. I know that this really isn't needed. I think the stock exhaust is fine. It looks pretty good, sounds okay, and it's fairly quiet. It is heavy, so if I can save 3 kilos there, maybe that's a reason for doing it. But I think I'm probably doing this because it's there and because I don't know if anybody else has. I have seen quite a few of these Arrow exhausts on other bikes, in particular the X-Cone, which is a shorter version that's more flared. The reason why I didn't go for that is that right now I've got my pannier frames on, but I also use it with my Enduristan Blizzard panniers. And I need to be able to put my heat shield on the exhaust, and I don't think I'll be able to get it on the X-Cone. So this video won't be full every single step by step. The reason for that being is that I'm also going to be fitting some forward crash bars to my bike, and I need to take the bodywork off a little bit to do that. And I've already done a video showing how the bodywork comes off. Likewise for fitting the exhaust, I'm expecting this to be a very similar process to what I had to do for the MotoX, and I have a full video for that. So instead what I will do is I will weigh the exhaust. I'll give you a close-up look of all the components that came with this system. I'll then do a very quick time-lapse of me stripping the bike down, taking the MotoX exhaust off. I'll then show you the two of these side by side so you can see where the extra money goes. And these Arrow systems are significantly more expensive. I think this one is about 3 to 4 times the price of the MotoX. But it is road legal, and if you want a quiet emissions regulation meeting exhaust, I think this is the only one that you can get. So this is everything that you get as part of the exhaust system. This here is the silencer with the Arrow badge on it. There's nothing in this end. There was an insert in the MotoX exhaust. It's got a carbon fibre end cap. We'll let you have a look down into the end there. You can see that's the baffle that's in there, and it's just on this spring clip to remove it, but I will be leaving mine in. Other than that, not a lot to say really, other than it's, you know, the build quality on these really is excellent. And if you can see the welds that are along here, the 2 plates that have been welded together there. So yeah, just really, really nicely finished. The only other thing to add is that this one is E-marked. So I think this is the only road legal exhaust you can get, aftermarket exhaust that you can get for the Honda CRF300. The next thing to show you is the link pipe. Again, E-marked, E-stamped, just really good quality welding everywhere on it. You can see the place where it's going to mount to the bike, some little loops where the spring clips will go, and then here I have the titanium header. I mean, it's a pipe, it's been welded, yeah, seems to be pretty good quality. There's the threaded hole for the lambda sensor to go into where it goes on the bike. And then to actually make this fully road legal, I have this expensive box. If you've never seen one, this is a catalytic converter. Now these are high flow catalytic converters that come with the Arrow system. I think the intention is that it should not compromise performance by putting this in, but we shall see. So this fits in to the end of the link pipe like that, and then the other end goes into the silencer like that, and that all then assembles up over the top. Just a few more things to point out to you. So these are the various bags that come with it. So each one of these came with one of the components. They've got the homologation certificates for each piece. This has just got one spring in. I guess that's to link the end can to the link pipe. This is the one which comes for the header. And I don't know if you can see in there, but there's two Jubilee clips with a threaded fitting. And I think this is so you can reuse your heat shield if you have the Honda CRF300L. Now on the Rally, there is no heat shield on the header because it's inside the fairing. So, you know, there's no risk that it's going to come into contact with anything. But for those of you who have a CRF300L and have seen some of those pictures on the internet of people who have burnt their trousers, you can use these to refit your original heat shield. The last thing I have is just some additional fittings. One thing that's particularly useful, I don't know if you can see that in there, is a spring puller. For those of you who saw my MotoX video, you'll know that there's just that moment when you're trying to get those springs on, when you're never quite sure if it's going to take your knuckles off or not. But yeah, that's in there. There's also high temperature grease. There's another sachet in the other bag. And yeah, all of the components look quite well made. There's some extra bushings for the fitting. So that's showing you all the bits that come with it. I'm now going to weigh it, but what I am going to do is I'm not going to weigh the parts that are used for fitting the heat shield because I won't be using that on my Rally. So yeah, it's just trying to do as close as possible to a like-for-like weight comparison. So here we go. Apologies to those of you who don't like seeing things weighed. By all means, skip along to the next bit if that's you. So this here is the silencer going on. Silencer just on its own, 1.6 kilos. That is pretty light. I think that is the lightest of all of them. So for comparison, the stock exhaust, which included this and the link pipe, was 5.16 kilos, and this is 1.6 kilos just for the silencer. The MotoX silencer, the titanium one, is just over 2 kilos. So this alone, even though it's bigger, is 400 grams or about 20% lighter than the MotoX exhaust. That is a surprise. So the next thing I'm going to weigh is the link pipe. Pop that on there. So that's 486 grams. So that's 2.1 kilos when I combine that with the silencer. So those two pieces together saves 4 kilos over stock. And then the last bit I'm going to weigh is the titanium header. So if I can get that to balance on the scale nicely. And that is 731 grams. So to compare that with stock, it's 951, and to compare it with the steel MotoX header, which was 1080 grams. So yeah, again, 200 grams saving over stock. The next thing that I'm going to weigh, which is in the stock exhaust, is the catalytic converter. And that is 225 grams. Now, I didn't weigh the other components with the other exhausts, so I'm not going to include these in the total, but I will weigh them just so I know how much they are when I put everything on. I'm not even sure if I need all these pieces, but it's a lot easier to do it now when everything is set up. So yeah, potentially another 130 grams of fittings, but again, the other exhausts had fittings as well, which I did not weigh. To confirm, the total weight of the Arrow Titanium Thunder system without the catalytic converter is about 2.8 kilograms. So that's 700 grams lighter than the MotoX system and 3.5 kilos, well, 3.3 kilos lighter than the stock system. When you add the weight of the catalytic converter in, it brings it up to about 3 kilos, so 3.1 kilos lighter than stock and about half a kilo lighter than the MotoX system. So yeah, I think even in its full road legal mode with the catalytic converter, it's definitely a weight saving. So I'm not going to talk through any of this bodywork removal. If you want to see exactly how all of this is done and every little catch, I've done a separate video on that, which you can find on the channel, both for removing it and for refitting it. But right now, all I'm going to do is strip it all off so I can get to the MotoX exhaust. So that's everything open. Now I just need to remove the MotoX exhaust. So just before I fit the Arrow exhaust to the bike, I just want to show the two of them side by side so you can get a feeling for how they compare. So I've tried to line them up roughly so the mounting points are level. So the Arrow one definitely sticks out further, maybe another 2 inches or so, right the way to the end there. Bearing in mind, this Arrow exhaust is significantly lighter than the MotoX one, even though they're both titanium. I guess there's different grades of titanium. The MotoX one does look physically larger top to bottom than the Arrow does. Just looking at how the finish is really, I mean, I think particularly on the carbon fibre, it just fits much, it's a much nicer fit on the Arrow exhaust. It's actually screwed on instead of, I guess, glued in on the MotoX. But having said that, the MotoX exhaust costs about a third to a quarter what the Arrow system does. So it's not really fair to compare like for like, because they really aren't. I think the Arrow exhaust is a premium product. The MotoX exhaust is made to a budget, and for what they cost, I think they're pretty good. I've used this one for a few months this year. I've been really quite pleased with it, but I did just want to try what the Arrow one was like. So I'm now going to fit the Arrow exhaust to the bike. Again, I'm not going to talk through this. I'm really just going to start at the front with the header, work my way back along the exhaust. I think people can probably work out which bit goes into which bit, especially as there's only really 3 parts. Just one thing I think I would mention is there is this bolt-on clip which goes on, so there's only actually one spring on the Arrow exhaust to hold the silencer to the link pipe. This piece actually goes between the header and the link pipe, and that's actually how it grips. So there is no spring to hold the header to the link pipe. So to those of you who saw my MotoX video, you'll know that I actually fitted the header first and then tried to fit the lambda sensor, and it was a real pain trying to twist it up enough to do it. Several of you pointed out that actually it is a lot easier just to fit it beforehand. So that is what I'm going to do here. So it's basically to wind on the thread of the sensor before I actually fit the header to the bike. It might look clumsy, but it puts much less stress on the wire for the sensor to do it this way. You do have to be a bit careful of that metal piece just sliding around, but it's fine. There we go. Right, let's rest that in there while I go around, and now I'll fit the bolts. So this is the one where I actually need to put the fitting over the top of it. And before I assemble that, I'm just going to use some of this high temperature grease that came with, get rid of that rubbish, that came with the Arrow exhaust, and just to cover that, just to try and get a really good seal up against there. Actually looking at this, I think if it went on, if I'll show you that on the camera, if it went on with this side up, I think I'm going to get dust and dirt to accumulate in there. So I'm actually going to put it on that way up with the bolt at the bottom. So all I'm doing is I'm just putting some of this high temperature grease just in there. I'm going to put a bit on here, then I'm going to put a bit on the other end of the link pipe before it goes on, just because it'll just help to get the pipe on, and also for a better seal. I'm going to spread that all over here, just making sure it's covered all the way around. I suspect when the time comes to take this exhaust off again, that this will also help if it's all been nicely greased up like that. The other thing which hopefully you can see on there is I'm just actually putting this fitting which came off the stock exhaust, and that just helps it bolt together. Taking the surplus that's off there and just putting it on the outside so that the steel clip doesn't bond too tightly to it when it gets hot, and it will get hot. Okay then, so that is going to tighten up over there. I don't know if you can see in here, but there is actually quite a big gap, so I think that is where one of the spacers will go. So I'm actually going to put that in and secure that before I do this clip up over the exhaust. So now I'm going to put that piece, just slots in there. There we go. And that is the long bolt. This came with the new exhaust. I'm not using the stock bolts for this. Actually, you know what? I think I'm missing a washer on the end of here. I'm just going to leave that loose for now as well, just until I've got the exhaust, the silencer fitted. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the catalytic converter in. This goes in there. Actually, I'm wondering whether, to get the seal on that, whether it's worth actually just putting some grease on there. I think I will. You can see that on there. So that is just a pretty snug fit into there. I'm just going to put the last of the grease that I've got just on the outside of there, because that is where the silencer will fit over. They did give me 2 sachets of this, but I guess I can keep the other one back in case I ever need to refit it. The last thing to do is I've got a spacer and a washer and a bolt that replace the stock ones that are just going to fit in there. And yeah, that is a perfect fit. Just a little bit of pressure just to get that in. All I need to do is just to fit the spring, which just goes on the underside there. Actually, I suspect if I put that end on first, it will be easier to pull down. Cool. It's a much stiffer spring than the other one was. And we're on. Yeah, that's definitely holding all that together really securely. Might just loosen that bolt off a little, see if it will go any more now that that spring's on. That's as far up as that will go. Can I tighten this one up? And this one I'm just going to slide over and do that up as well. So just want to make sure that doesn't snag. So I'll probably do it at that angle when it's out of the way. You know what, I might try and flip that round. Looking at where these clips are, that's where the fairing has to go on. So I think this does have to go above, not below, like it is now. So I think I might actually have to take that off to get that out. So I'm not going to film this. But yeah, when you put this in, bear in mind that that's where everything has to go. So I think that does have to go on top, even if it does mean that things will accumulate in. So yeah, I got that wrong. I think it would be a better design if it was the other way up. If it could actually be done up when it's down like that. Oh, actually, you know what? Maybe that will be okay. I should at least try it, shouldn't I? Before I decide that it's not going to work. Okay, that is snagging there. Yeah, and even there actually it's because the bolt is sticking through. So I'm just going to take all of this off, which is annoying, but you live and learn, because yeah, it's snagging on the clutch otherwise, which is no good. There we go, I just managed to get that turned around so that now this is on the upside. It's not going to snag on the clutch cable when I do it up. So up in there is the header. I'll just bring that out so you can see it, and let's give you a quick look along the length of here. To give you a look, that's the lambda sensor there. That is the clip. You've got to make sure that that bolt is on the top, because otherwise it's going to snag on the clutch cable underneath there. It's coming along. As you can see, there is a spacer. That's the big spacer that comes with the exhaust. Loops around under the back there. And there's the silencer on the end. Hopefully you can see that through my pannier frame. It's just a single bolt in the top there with a spacer. And yeah, I think they look pretty good. Now, one of the things that I think people were conscious of with the MotoX was where it was relative to the exhaust. Just because it's that bit longer, I don't know if you can see that on there, but it's absolutely clear of the number plate, so there's no chance that any exhaust gases from that are going to melt the corner of it. So that's all done. So that is my video on how to change the exhaust on the Honda CRF300 Rally. It would be exactly the same on the Honda CRF300L, except there are those 2 extra clips if you want to refit your heat shield. This is the MotoX exhaust that I took off. I just thought if I hold it over the top you can get a rough idea of how they are similarly shaped. Yeah, I think these MotoX exhausts, they're pretty good. They're made to a budget. Just feeling this in my hands, it is a lot heavier. Well, a lot heavier. It's a few hundred grams heavier than the Arrow exhaust is. I hope this has been interesting and useful. If it has, please like and subscribe if that's your thing, or don't, whichever you prefer. And I hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching.